Welcome to another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum, where all voices matter. Our panel returns today to discuss the latest economic and political issues. The Honorable Joe Oliver is a former federal Minister of Finance and Minister of Natural Resources. The Honorable Gary Marr is a former Alberta Cabinet Minister and Alberta agent in Washington, D.C. He now heads the Canada West Foundation. And Sandra Pupatello is a former Ontario Economic Development and Trade Minister. Welcome to the program.
Hello. Great to be here.
Lots to talk about. We might have to shunt some things to the next episode. We'll see. But do want to talk about Canada-U.S. trade relations, because this was something that was raised by Prime Minister Trudeau at the cabinet retreat earlier on last month, and he announced a new Team Canada approach as the U.S. prepares for its general elections, including, of course, the presidential election. Just want to know your thoughts on this. Is this strategy going to work, and what are the threats and opportunities that we have as a nation? Gary, you were in Washington for a few years as the Alberta agent. What's your take on this?
Well, let me say, first of all, I think it's a good idea that we take a Team Canada approach to the United States. It's about making sure that we all sing from the same song sheet. The issue that may arise is who's actually writing the music for the song sheet. And if you look at what was announced by the Prime Minister, he's got a minister from Ontario, a minister from Quebec. He's got the former UN ambassador, Marc-André Blanchard. He's got Mr. Volpe. He doesn't have any ministers from Manitoba, Alberta, or Saskatchewan that are involved. He doesn't have anybody that represents the energy sector involved. He doesn't have anybody representing the agriculture sector that's involved. So the overall approach is a good one, but the song sheet that they're going to be singing from is one that is largely focused on central Canada and leaves important issues that are important to Western Canadian provinces really off the list of the playlist. And so it should come as no surprise that the provinces themselves are upping their games in terms of approaches into the United States. You look at what Saskatchewan's doing, Alberta. Many provinces are engaged in the United States with their own offices, often right, co-located at Canadian consulates or at the Canadian Embassy in Washington. That's a good thing because we want to have a broad sense of representation of the importance of this trade relationship. And the last thing that I'll say is that I think it's not very good that the Prime Minister Trudeau seems to be engaged in a campaign against Donald Trump. I think this is a bad strategy. I think that it is a better strategy to be focused on trying to figure out what is it that we can do to get rid of trade irritants between Canada and the United States, regardless of who is the president of the United States. Both leading candidates right now, Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, both have some degree of wanting to be trade protectionist. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. But if you campaign against Donald Trump, I don't know how that looks for you and how you walk that back in the event that Mr. Trump becomes the next president of the United States. So that's the one piece that I really stay away from.
Sandra, are you concerned about that as well? This campaign against MAGA Republicans at the same time we're worried about our trade relationship?
I don't see an overt anti-Trump anything out of our government because Canadians, regardless of our stripe or partisan history, we're civil with whoever we have to deal with, and that is going to still be the case no matter who the prime minister is or ministers. We're going to deal with who is there in office, and I think they've said that publicly as well. Right. I think it's great that they're sort of girding their loins now, and that it's also coming down to that provincial level. And speaking with the new rep from Ontario and Washington the other day, they're doing all kinds of preparations for the day that they need to go in front of governors, right, state ministers, etc., who, who need to hear our case. And I think it's really good to have those relationships in place before the panic or chaos starts. And it worked for us during NAFTA 2.0,
Mhm.
and it resulted in a deal that was actually better for Canadians. So if that worked, why change it? I'm just glad they're talking about it already and
Okay.
preparing.